right, here we go. Hey everybody, this is going to be a little bit of an experiment today. I've never done anything quite like this. I've tried to record both myself and my computer screen, so bear with me as I figure this out as we go. But hi, I wanted to make a quick video for patrons today because I had something today that happened today that was kind of exciting, which is that I got back one of the maps I've been having designed for the book. As a lot of you know, I've been posting on Facebook that I've been having a map designer work on creating the maps of the world for the Hereafter, for the book that would normally be in the front cover of a book. You know, if you're like reading a fantasy novel, when you first open up the book, you're going to see that there's a map of the world that you can always refer to when you're reading the book. You want to look back and say, oh, well, how does place A relate to place B? Well, that's what these maps are designed to do. So they're going to be in the front of any printed book that happened, but I'm also going to keep them available publicly on the Patreon site so that people can come back and refer to them if they need to over the course of reading the book. But as you know, I had one of the maps designed already. The guy that I'm having designed these was, his name is Nick Rial, and he's absolutely awesome. He's a video game map designer. So sometimes when you see video games, you're going to see maps that are integrated into the video games. He designs those kinds of maps. He also has designed maps for places like Ren fairs and several other kind of interesting background that he has. But for this map, what I wanted him to do was just take the world as I described it. I gave him a lot of the different locations that I wanted to have marked on the map, and then I just had him design it. As you can see from the first map, which is the map of the larger part of the state of Utah, I was kind of going for an Old West feel. I wanted kind of browns and yellows, and I wanted it to look like maybe something you would see unrolled on parchment. I told him that I thought the map at the beginning of Bonanza, if you've ever seen that, kind of had the feel I was looking for. And he did a great job. I think he did a real good job kind of capturing the spirit of what I was looking for on here. So I'm going to walk you through these maps fairly quickly. I'm going to try to go quickly. And also I'm going to try to do this without any spoilers, which could be kind of a challenge because there's several things on the map I could easily start rambling on about and kind of spoil the story. So I'm going to try not to do that. I just want to give you the basic features of the map. All right, so this map is of the Hereafter. It's the larger part of the northern part of the state of Utah. If you don't know the geography of the state of Utah, you'll notice that over on this side, there's a border that runs down here. This is the Utah's border with Nevada on the far side here. And then in the upper right-hand corner, there's a little notch that comes out. That's the Utah's border with Wyoming. Wyoming's just in that little spot right here. And the rest of the map itself is probably about half the state of Utah. It's kind of the northern half of the state of Utah. The first thing you're going to notice when you look at the map is this large yellow oval right in the center. This is what's called the Hereafter. It's the border between the world of the living and the dead. It's this kind of bubble that's been created between the world of the living and the dead. The most important thing to know about the Hereafter is that it is a hard border. The ghosts that are trapped within the Hereafter are not able to get through it. It's a very permanent kind of a impermeable wall that prevents them from getting out of the Salt Lake Valley. Let me zoom in a little bit on the map and I'll try to walk you through a few of the key features of it. First thing you're going to notice is Salt Lake City. It's right here in the kind of the upper right hand corner of the Hereafter. The University of Utah would be about right here, and then I-80 that goes through Utah goes right there, as you can see. There's also a feature that you're going to note right away, which is that there's a dotted line that comes down through here, and it's called the Fancher Train route. This is a feature that dates back to the 1857. There's a lot of backstory in the novel which kind of ties in current events with historical events. And the Fancher Train is a real historical event. This was a wagon train that passed through Utah in 1857 at a time when there was a lot of tension between the Mormons and the federal government. There was actually something called the Utah War that would become very close to happening over the course of the year of 1857, 1858. But when the Fancher Train came through, they came through a very tense world of the Mormons and that lived there at the time, and they continued on past this part of Utah to a place called Mountain Meadows, which was in the very southern part of the state of Utah. And there, the entire wagon train was slaughtered by the Mormons. Every man, woman, and most of the children were slaughtered. The only children that survived were some very small children who were then farmed out to the local Mormons to raise. So it's a really kind of a dark chapter in Utah history, and it does figure into the novel itself. Right in the very center of the Hereafter, you're going to see that there's an inset, and the inset is up here in the upper right-hand corner. Let me zoom in a little bit further so you can see this. This is the Dugway area. A lot of people don't realize that a good part of the western desert of Utah, the Salt Flats and south of that area, is actually a military base or a military encampment, military establishment. It's called the West Desert Test Area or the Dugway Proving Grounds, and it's a place where the U.S. government has been testing some of the most deadly weapons known to man have been tested there from the 1940s and 50s right up to the present day. Chemical, nuclear, biological, some of the really scary stuff, some probably scarier stuff than any of us will ever know about, have been tested in the Dugway Proving Grounds area. So the town of Dugway is here. That is the Army base. It's where the soldiers and their families and the scientists that work at the facility live. And then the West Desert Test area is out here on the side as well. There's a couple of historical locations on here, the Stone in the Stream and the Go Shoot Camp. You'll just have to read the book to see exactly what those are about. So that's the first map. Let me switch over quickly to the second map, which is the one that I just got today, and I'm really excited about because I think Nick did an amazing job on this map. It's trying to match the style to the first map, but it also is it's a zoom in of the downtown area of Salt Lake City, so it's going to feel a little bit different. The first thing you're going to notice on here is, again, the yellow border. That's the Hereafter that's running right along the edge of the city and separating out the downtown area from the Wasatch Mountains that are on the side here. The other thing you might notice is that there's several locations that are marked all throughout here. Some of them are in a red font, like Billy's Death Site, and some of them are in a kind of a brownish font, like the Pie Pizzeria. Anything in a brown font is a real location. Anything in a red font is something that I've made up. It only exists in the course of the novel. So that's why they look a little bit different. The University of Utah figures very prominently in the story, but also this area, the pink area in the upper part of the map here, this is a neighborhood of Salt Lake City called the Avenues. It's a residential neighborhood that's really critically important to the story, and especially the Salt Lake City Cemetery that exists right kind of in the middle of the Avenues. There's a lot of critical parts of the story that happen in that cemetery. Richard Pratt is the protagonist of the novel, and as many of you probably know from reading the early parts of the things I've released about the book, he dies 3 days before the story even begins. And his house that he shares with his lover Keith Woo is right here in the Avenues. But it's labeled on the map here as Richard's death site. Now, death sites are really important in the novel because well, I won't tell you why. That's a potential spoiler, but death sites are very important. So Richard's death site is here. Another character, Billy, his death site is down here. Justin's death site is off the map, but it points to where it is. All right, let me zoom in on the map. I'll show you a few more quick features before we finish up here. One of them that you're going to notice about is Temple Square. This is the center, the heart and soul of Salt Lake City. In fact, it's so much the heart and soul of Salt Lake City that everything is measured from the temple. The first street south of the temple is South Temple. First street north of the temple is North Temple, and then every other street from that direction out in the grid is measured from that first south, second south, third south. So a lot of important things happen in the course of the novel here in Temple Square. You're also going to see a lot of other places marked on the map that you might be kind of surprised to see. For instance, Einstein Brothers Bagel Shop that's on South Temple. It's an important location in the novel. Same as the Sinclair gas station. That's a street down from there. There's also a lot of government buildings here. The Wells Fargo building is an office building in town. The city and county building, the Matheson Courthouse, all of those are very important to the story as well. So I think that might be just about all I need to tell you about the story from here. I hope it's enough to kind of spark some interest and maybe have you kind of look at these maps and definitely refer back to them as we continue with the story in May, and excuse me, in April. You're going to want to be able to go back and look at these maps to be able to tell you, kind of fill in gaps for you if there's anything that you need to know how the story relates to the different locations. All right, that's it. I wanted to make this video as short as I could because I know that it's I could talk about this stuff for days and days and days. I've written about this for the last 5 years, so this is kind of the world I've been immersed in ever since I started this project 5 years ago. All right, so thank you all so much. I am so grateful to each and every one of you that have become a patron of this story, and I really think we're going to have a lot of fun with it once we start releasing the story next month on the 15th. Until then, I'm going to keep throwing occasional things like this at you. I won't throw too much, I promise, but enough to keep you hopefully engaged in the process before we actually start releasing chapters on May 15th. All right. Thank you again so much. We'll stay in touch and have a great week. Bye.